this might be controversial, and listen in this room because
ruffle some feathers, dude.
This is how I feel. This is how I feel. I am a strong believer, and I would be very extremely supportive. Although I don't listen. You don't necessarily agree with everything Trump says and does, right? You don't necessarily agree with what Donald Trump says or does or other politicians, right?
Correct.
So I'm not saying that Bernie Sanders or the person I'm about to mention is someone that I 100% believe. I like people who are authentic and people that truly can understand what it is to be someone like who is
a
disruptor, and most importantly, somebody who is, working really, really hard in the middle class and trying to build your business. I'm an AOC fan.
You are?
I am an AOC fan. Yes, some of her sassiness and yes, some of her views. There is a connection to the working class that she gets and understands. And I appreciate that because the only thing that I'm asking for is just straightforward fucking thinking and transparency. I don't have to. I don't have to.
The Ruffled Feathers Podcast.
I wish y'all had told me to wear black today, but that's cool.
You didn't get the memo?
It's cool, guys.
So what I try to do is this year alone was try to create my own uniform, but simplify things.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get up every day where I know I have, this is my set color, this is my set shoe, this is everything. So that way I can just get up, put clothes on, and then go. So I spend less time worrying about.
That's really what I do. I have that's why I like the essentials, like jeans or specific khakis, and then a solid t-shirt, and then just move. Because that's what all the geniuses do, apparently.
Supposedly so-called geniuses. I would say that the word genius is getting used very loosely these days, man. Everybody's a genius now.
Yeah.
I don't even know how they came to that conclusion.
It started with those participation awards.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, man,
don't walk down that road.
Yeah.
You're gonna ruffle some feathers, guys.
I'm just saying,
What we do.
Might piss off our sponsors.
Monsters are geniuses. Shit, they're still going in the world of there's a million energy drinks, and there's still they haven't gone out of business. You know what I mean? They're still pushing, pulling.
I mean, they promote a lot in motocross and
man,
these wild white boy sports and shit.
They've created
the Hebrew number 6.
Yeah, the 666.
This is the beast is strong. The beast is strong. Oh God, Jesus Christ! I remember that shit. Fuck, man.
But it's true, man.
What? They're part of the beast? Oh shit! I don't know. Can you fact check that real fast already? Thank you.
Let's do it.
Do the
Hebrew number 6.
Yeah.
Shit.
Gematria.
Is that what it's called?
Oh my God! Is this where we're gonna go?
Hey, we start off from the hip.
Bro. God damn, man, this is crazy already.
Firing from the hip.
Yeah, this is just a little fun clip we're gonna have for
like what the number looks like.
Oh Jesus!
See?
Yeah, it's on that little chart right there to give it some more context to the right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 6. So you see how the M is designed.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
They're all.
It's supposed to be like a scratch from the monster, right?
In succession. 1, 2, 3, 6, 6, 6.
Monster brought by the Antichrist. And if you ain't a devil in your life, then you're not deviling enough. Let's go.
Buy one today.
That's crazy. Here's the thing. There could be definitely some strong possibilities, right? Like at this point in our life, we can't X out everything, right? But I also think what I love about conspiracy theories is they're just theories, so it's supposed to be great conversation pieces.
For sure.
I hate conspiracy theories when they become people's truth.
Upset.
Like they're so convinced that this is true. But you're missing the point. It hasn't been proven. That's why we're talking about it. Like it's fun to talk about.
It could be.
It could be true, which
There's
is great.
Possibility of.
Right? So I love that, but
also there's conspiracies that are just thought up of like this.
For
right?
sure.
Like that. Okay, so this is the proof. That's all I needed.
That's all I need. I saw the symbol for the 6, and I'm like, look at it, bitch. But at the same time, I get it because that's the thing too. Is I think we haven't been taught properly how to use our imagination, because at the end of the day, as you're a creative, we've been told at a certain point we can't use our imagination.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're an adult, you still use your imagination to some format, right? So I think at the end of the day, if you haven't been properly taught how to explore your imagination, then yeah, you can fall into some rabbit holes like that where you're just like,
Yeah. Well, and it becomes like the lawyer thing. Like, if you can just create the probable cause with enough evidence.
yeah, for sure.
I feel like that's what conspiracies separate conspiracy theories from actual conspiracies.
Yeah.
And then, once you get into the word conspiracy theory, it was a word used by the CIA, disseminated to the people to like distract and detract from JFK killings and stuff like that. So now, fast forward, since the 60s, a lot of these conspiracy theories are still thrown out like that to be like, just throw them off the trail, label them crazy, and then, and the rest of the society kind of like follows suit.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's crazy because even now, I think the greatest conspiracy theory that we're living in right now is algorithms that are producing our predetermined like opinion and views on things. So like, if you think about it, when you hit YouTube, normally, why do you hit a YouTube video? It's basically whatever the what is that called?
The recommended?
The thumbnail?
The thumbnail.
Yeah.
Thumbnails have become so like, especially somebody who's in creative. Like, I've had people say, "Hey, can you design me some like attention-getting like thumbnails?" So if the thumbnail fits whatever you've already determined to be true, you're gonna click. So at the moment you click you're already part of the algorithm, and now it's gonna feed you anything and everything. So now you're no longer like researching; you're just believing everything you see to be true, right? And that's definitely if you look at all these companies and you look at how the government works with these companies, you have to ask yourself, who's really telling us how to think? Like you're talking about. We know the CIA has been busy doing work since the 60s, so
yeah, and that's.
But who controls the CIA?
I don't know. We're probably gonna get into the whole the conversation of the deep state.
Yeah,
the deep state, guys.
Probably.
It's a conspiracy theory, bro.
I mean, it's just a lot, dude. Because when you think about it, like, okay, the thumbnail is the first thing because it's like our eyes. People have put money in and invested time in and science in marketing. Like, how do we get people's attention, right? So now we're so advanced that we know how to easily. We are as complex individuals as we could be. We are very simple. We fall for simple things. We like simple, easy things. Like fruits are red, yellow. So that we can find them or whatever. And they use it the same for like McDonald's. Like stuff like that. But also, like, now you got the titles, like you got like a hook or like a title that catches, like, that goes along with the thumbnail. Like, and most of it is kind of like either not related to the content or it's clickbait to trick you into fun.
To get that conspiracy mindset or that whatever drives you.
So we've come so far that we're like easily lied to, easily manipulated, easily steered, But think about it, like that could be used for good. That could be.
Well, I think that's it. That's the thing too. We have to point out. I think we point out so much bad in the world that we absolutely miss all of the good things that are going on. And as somebody who wants to stay as positive as possible to keep that energy going, because we can easily get so locked into like the negative that we just lose sight of like our goals, right? For our families, for our loved ones. There is a lot of positive. Like, I love the work that we do in a sense because we're trying to do amazing things, right? But at the same time, we are up against, especially when you're looking at the world of marketing and branding. And then you look at these companies, look at Facebook, and you look at IG, look at all these social media platforms where they have sold our information. They're manipulating our information. You can't even say right now. I can say Vaseline in a few minutes. Vaseline's gonna pop up on YouTube right here. You know,
for sure.
Shout out Vaseline. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, we're living in that world where like that's like everything is pretty much being determined for us. But it's interesting to me because I didn't know this part of history. We love history. But like Hitler had a marketing branding genius. I remember his name. You can look that up. But he actually, that was a part of their rhetoric and their propaganda and how they put things together. And even for the words, like how they were using their fonts to how. So like you go back and you look at it in the 40s, they were already like understanding how like.
It was nice too. Like the font was easy to read, easy to see. The colors,
artistic,
yeah, absolutely
attractive.
And then if you're living in a like, and you think about how Hitler became to power, you're looking at you're looking at a country that was basically became super poor from World War I and all the sanctions, and then this guy comes out and he's like, "Hey, you're living in poverty and things are horrible. You know who's to blame, and then you just all of a sudden you create the monster, and then you create the propaganda, and you create
that graphic designer.
I'm telling you, he was super duper on point.
Those were his thumbnails of his time.
I mean, look at these.
Right.
These are honestly like take out the propaganda, and so everybody knows we're definitely against this. But what we're saying is like it was appealing to a mass of people that were struggling and felt like they no longer had a voice, so it made sense, and that is beautiful marketing.
Because we also researched this for another little topic video we didn't get into, but I didn't know that they had introduced a super affordable radio for all of its citizens so where everyone can have one, and that way you can consume your propaganda from the state, and that again. We can talk about how deep state works, but why? If it worked then, why couldn't it work now?
Well, I hate to tell anyone this, but a good amount of a lot of the people who were part of the creative side, whether it was scientists, physicists, artists that were Nazis, we brought them over to America and be part of our own process. I mean, good portion of everybody that helped NASA were Nazis. Everybody, if you don't know that, research it. It's right there.
I think like the main one was
the main one. The main one.
Paperclip.
The
main one.
Ron Vaughn or something or Von. Vaughn.
So, and that was a big thing. We brought some of the greatest minds, and that's one thing that I love about history. Is that
is the radio?
Yeah.
The thing's solid.
You know what
too.
that is right there? That is Instagram in the 40s right there.
Right.
Yeah. That is Instagram in the 40s because that didn't. People were listening to the radio. TV was that's all they had. So, like, I mean, just think about the creativeness that went behind that, and to create something that's free, it makes it feel like you're doing everyone a favor.
And it's not fair.
And they also marketed stylish, mass-producible radio.
So you already hear that, and you're like, oh, I know where I'm gonna put it right here.
Yeah.
It's gonna go
and think about it, like, look, think about it, you had failed government, so like you have this person that's like Hitler was a great speaker. Right, he knew how to, like, even when he was young, he knew how to infiltrate, and so you have this person. You're just trying to look for help, answers. When you're oppressed, you're just trying to look for anything that's going to help you feel better about your living situation. This guy was able to master and manipulate all these people from it, and then you see him; he's creating things like this. You're like, wow, he's really looking out for our country. You know what I mean? So like, and then you just think about it, like, if we took the best of the best from them and put them in our own country, then we took a lot of the same stuff that they did and we put it in our own government as far as what we're doing now. So,
but I think that lends again more to the validity, for me, in my opinion, of the deep state, of these dark actors who weren't, like, nobody in the United States said, hey, we agree with getting these scientists who performed horrific experiments.
We weren't voting on that.
Right, we weren't voting on that.
Because we were like, nothing's better than a dead Nazi. We're like, kill them all. Right.
Yeah, we had the Nuremberg trials where all this shit was put forward and like, oh, this is horrible. These are horrible people. This is, unexcusable.
Right.
But again, like, that's where it leads me to where my mind has to think in three different directions, right? Because everything you get, it sounds like a good idea from McDonald's. Like, yeah, they just want to see me smile.
Yeah. Yeah. Who doesn't want the Travis Scott meal, right?
Right. The Angel Reese burger.
Fuck yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, what is that food doing to us? How sick is it making us?
For sure.
At the same time, who's providing the funding for a lot of that shitty, cheap food for all of its citizens? And then who provides the medicine for that? Like, so
I'm gonna go with deep state.
I'm gonna go with deep state too. But obviously you want to find the happiness and everything. So
have you seen?
It's
the
hard
movie,
to find it in that
The Founder?
situations.
Have you seen The Founder?
No,
oh, the McDonald's thing?
Yeah. Michael Keaton?
Yeah. He stole the whole concept.
Good old Batman.
Yeah, but it's like at the end, he tells you, like, at the end, his final closing words are like, like, this world is for this. Like, yeah, I took a fucking family-owned business and gave it to America and disguised it as family.
Right.
And now McDonald's is family forever, which is not. It's a destructive fucking machine. But we see it. Most of the population sees it as it's convenient. It's right there. I'm hungry. My kid's hungry.
It's at every corner.
I don't have time to cook. I'm gonna get it.
Well, my favorite part is like when you're like, oh, we're not gonna get McDonald's, we're gonna get a healthier option, Chick-fil-A. And they're like, well, Chick-fil-A is just as bad, yo.
Yeah.
Just go grill your own chicken. It only takes like what, maybe 15 minutes. Hey, air fryer, get your air fryer. You can do all the
And
healthy.
my kids are always like, man, we never get to go eat to these cool places.
Yeah.
It's okay. You'll be
Trust
all
me,
right.
McDonald's not that cool.
They don't.
McDonald's not that
Yeah.
cool. It's funny that y'all say that because that's absolutely true. I think also too. I think my only issue with the deep state is that we try to like determine who is deep state, and this is my theory, my opinion. We'll say it. I think anyone and everyone that's in politics, whether left or right, they all part of the same. They're all part of the same monster. They all answer to billionaires. They're all getting lobbyists and honestly, like we can see heated conversations between a Democrat and a Republican, but at the end of the day, they're all going to the same dinners and the same strip clubs together, and probably going to the same Epstein parties, Puff Daddy parties. I don't know. I don't know if to be true. I'm just throwing it out there. But like literally, everyone's the same. But I think they do such a great job to divide us that we just want to believe that this person is the bad guy and this person's the bad guy. But
of course.
But everyone's the bad
guy. And that's
guy.
the show. Like that's the dog and pony show.
For sure.
That's the show.
But again, like that's also why I feel like the deep state has its true rooted actors. You have your minions that they're not told what really is going to go down. They're just the useful idiots to pay off and
promise like money or
position because a lot of that politics is like how do you get to the next stop or next higher up level to get that more power.
For sure.
So at that point, this is where we're at today, where there's no term limits. These people can be there forever. You have all these lobbyists and the government's gotten so swollen, so big. That's where we're at today, where in my opinion, they do hate a dude like Trump. They do hate, I mean, we're seeing the hate on Elon Musk right now because they're literally, all they're doing is auditing. And so what do you feel about this whole Doge, Elon Musk? Have you read into it? Have you just
I have. I'm sorry. I'm not an Elon fan. Never have been.
Yeah. Oh,
and I'm definitely not a Trump fan. Never have. And it wasn't even him running for president. It's when I took sociology in college and we talked about white collar crime. And Donald Trump has always been affiliated with white collar crime. And although he is not as bad as a politician, he could actually be even worse because he's a billionaire who has been connected with so much corruption, all the way even back to the 90s with the possibility of him laundering money for the Russians. I mean, this is something that has been talked about. But we sweep things underneath the bus. And I also believe that we are in a world now where we attach to fandom, right? Like we've all attached to somebody at one point that we love, we admired.
Or celebrity, yeah.
Celebrity, yes. We get caught up in the celebrity concept that we will dismiss anything and everything that they might be doing that's corrupted or wrong. I can also say, like at one point, I was the biggest Kanye West defender. Right?
Yeah.
Because
that's
of what
a fanatic, right? That's what
the
definition of a fanatic is.
Because you're like people my wife would be like, hey, he's not a good person. I'm like, no, he's just misunderstood. Like you're over here defending like stupidity, and you're like, why am I doing this? So like, there's a point in our lives where we all have to be checked. But then one thing like we were talking about earlier is that people throw around Elon's a genius. They're like, Elon didn't create Tesla, he bought Tesla, so he might be a great businessman. Maybe he saw the perspective of what Starlink could be in the space of Mars, but like we have to actually look at
an
like
idealist,
great idealist. But like the problem that I had with Doge is like, first of all, I didn't vote for Elon to be that shadowy figure in the back. Second of all, you're not telling me how it's properly ran. You're spewing a lot of crazy stuff on Twitter, which you control, and you dictate what's being allowed to say and what's not being allowed to say. You've actually come out with some crazy stuff you already said that you got rid of, but there's no supporting facts to it. And you've also already basically told some lies and some things that I'm like, okay, when people start lying or people are saying things, they're kind of going in a circle and you can't give me the actual stuff, then that makes me wonder. Listen closely. So do I think personally that we need to do audits across the board in the government? Yes. But when the first people you're auditing and getting rid of are people that are investigating you for your own things that you're doing on the side, makes me wonder.
And who's that?
So there's a lot of
or where's this
look that up if you can, because I don't want to oversight or say anything, but like there are there are a couple of different federal government agencies that he's gotten rid of or he's gotten fired, and these were people that were investigating him. But he's clearly has an agenda.
Because I've always been clear about this, and my stance too on Elon has always been hesitant because of the technologies he's providing. I don't think the electric car, EV vehicles are this beautiful green earth creating technology.
Not with those batteries, no, absolutely.
Right.
And it's easily controlled, remote
Yeah,
control.
you can literally just hack into it and control it.
Turn off the internet.
Right. So the whole Neuralink thing, you know.
Beast stuff. We're talking about the Antichrist stuff right there, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. You know, maybe he has some stock in Monster.
He probably owns it.
No, yeah, the Neuralink definitely questionable, man.
So with that and that, I'm, you know, again, I'm always gonna, even if I like you, I'm gonna question everything you're doing. Same thing with Trump. And in all honesty, I've never liked Trump as a public figure. I always thought he was, and it was also a New York thing. I was just like, the New York guys are so brash. They're so, you know, like cocky, loud and cocky. Like that's been the stereotype. And I always felt like Trump embellished that stereotype of these New York types. So I never liked him like that. He was never like, oh man, he's the best businessman. I've heard the stories and seen some of the documentaries on his dealings with, you know, the apartments and all this stuff. And again, you know, I can't go literally and say what he did wrong as a fact, because, you know, every story has different sides to it. I've heard mobsters talk about Trump saying how he wouldn't, you know, he would back out of deals if they knew the mob was in. So I don't know what's true or not. All I can say is to see what he's doing now and to see what I know is true is a corrupt government getting upset at him poking the nest. To me, that speaks more volumes than some, you know, some stories here and there. Because to me, that's the biggest issue, is that we've been spending trillions and trillions of dollars. Nobody's life is better today. Every government agency that I know of that I have to use on a personal basis, whether it's city or IRS, they're always coming after me. They're always making sure I paid my $200 this month or whatever. But when it comes to the other side, when we're like, well, where'd that $2 billion get spent? Where'd that $2 million get spent? Yeah. There's no accountability. And what I do like, and what he saw, like when he found on the Treasury, is it's a really simple system. If you need to spend $2 million for your organization in this department, they write the check and you have to put in what the money's for, and then the check gets sent out. There was I forgot how many billions were missing where nobody put where the money is for and what it's allotted for. Like, that is just, whether you like either person or not, that's our money. And that's stuff that needs to be held accountable. And there's people that need to be either thrown in jail or fired quickly. But like, and then to see that pushback from us regular folks is like, I feel like we need to kind of like take more responsibility for our money and what these people are doing with it.
I think that sentiment is correct. I do think that we have never really seen a complete audit of where our money goes to. We don't even ask. We just pay taxes and complain, right? Mm-hmm. But I also think that it's very self-serving, and I think there is very special interest for Elon Musk. Mm-hmm. I would definitely say you guys look into who he investigated first, why he investigated him. I mean, he's had a lot of investigations. I think 9 total.
Did you find anything on that? Okay.
He's definitely there was 1 or 2 cases already in the courts for things he was doing. And so, like, my whole thing is that it's easy right now to sell that, hey, we're going in and we're cleaning house. But then at the same time, if you're cleaning house, tell me what you're cleaning and make sure you're accurate about it and don't make up stuff while you're doing it. Even how he's sitting here talking about all these people are getting money from Medicare, but that's not true. Unfortunately, because it's an old system the way it is, and because of Social Security is not being able to date back to when we got to remember a lot of baby boomers, like there's people that are old. So him even saying there's people that are 150 years old getting, that's not accurate. It's just the way the system is. But it's easier to say that on Twitter. And we've already seen all these people come out and say, okay, that's not factual. But it's easier to say it on Twitter and you get everybody believing, oh, all these people are getting all this money. Because here's the thing about Donald Trump. And this is where we get back into how powerful marketing can be. I truly believe that right now we're in a full classism war. And what we do is I will give you a small plate and I will give you a large plate. And I will put the same amount of food on those plates. And what I will do is I will say, you see that big plate? See all that food on there, right? Like they're getting more than you. And the people with the little plate, with the food on there, they're saying, oh, I'm getting this. That's not fair. So it's easy to manipulate people. I don't believe, in my opinion, that Trump is really, really cares about the marginalized communities, especially those in the rural South. I don't believe he cares about the poor people. He's never been someone that's really, but it's easier to speak to that marginalized community because guess what? Democrats stop talking to them. We know that. Like when you hear, like when you see all these, we've seen these videos of all these poor Caucasians in these communities, especially the ones that are full MAGA geared up and they're just talking in there. These are the people who found somebody that they can champion to their anguish and their fears. Because think about it, like if you're somebody that's living in the rural South and you don't know where your money's going and you're struggling and you're hurting, but then you hear like immigrants are getting free computers, you're like, what the fuck, right? And the Democratic Party, which I'm not a fan of, have definitely only catered to a certain group of people, manipulating those people believe that they're for them. I just think right now we're living in a place right now where we have a lot of really good actors acting to seem like they care, but I don't truly believe anyone's really, really, really doing it.
I don't. It's always in the back of my mind for sure that there's a possibility that Trump is exactly what you say he is.
Yeah.
And I'm not ignorant to that fact. I just think whether he likes poor people, not black people, Hispanic people, is irrelevant when you run a company or a business or a country and the hard things you're doing to bring, businesses back here, creating jobs, making sure that we're getting taught correctly, like all these little things. That's why all those little things, the tax breaks, the different, obviously there's going to be, everyone's going to say, oh, well, look, he helped them now. It's so easy when in such a diverse country to be able to see the positives and negatives to every decision you make. But when it trickles down to us in the middle class, especially me as a tattooer,
absolutely,
I get to see, I get to see when the economy is doing well, I do well. That's because people are using their expendable money now with me.
Yeah.
As opposed to, dude, I'm gonna have to wait, dude. Like, I still groceries are still killing me. And, we just saw what 4 years of the status quo looks like, where, wages went up, but inflation went up faster. Housing, rent went up. Everybody went up on everything, and I've been hurting. I took a huge pay cut by not even raising my prices, but I'm still of the working class family. Like, you still want to get a great tattoo. I still want to, be able to provide that for anyone, not just people who are rich, not just crypto millionaires, not just real estate people and people in oil and gas. I want to be able to get anyone a good tattoo. So to see what he did in his first 4 years, and now understanding how the deep state really is, because there is the CIA, there were all these people in the FBI, all these, these fake Russia claims that he was a Russian asset, them holding the Hunter Biden laptop right before the 2020 election information, like that is true corruption in the government. Now, again, like we can split hairs and say Trump's not the best, shouldn't be your kid's uh, idol, or yeah. But that's a whole different conversation to me. And you know this, when you run a business, you're gonna make hard decisions. You're gonna hurt people that you don't want to hurt. But the low producers sometimes have to get cut, and the ideas that just aren't coming, bearing fruit, have to get cut. And sometimes in a family setting, when and you're strapped to your eyeballs in debt, there's like, well, yeah, we're used to getting going out to eat every weekend, but we're gonna have to cut back. And we're at that state where if we don't cut back, because we're so high in debt in this country, if we don't cut back and start creating money again, dude, we are gonna be Venezuela and Brazil and all these countries that fail because we've sold ourselves to all these other big corporations. And when I see that those big corporations are some of his allies and also some of his biggest opposition, that at least gives me a little bit of room to say, you know what, we can kind of buy ourselves another 4 to 8 years, because we're at that point, I think, where if we kept doing the Biden thing, the Kamala thing of what they did the past 4 years of leaving the borders open and just overrunning your country with people you didn't have the infrastructure to help, set up, because we obviously didn't have the infrastructure to help who was already here.
That's fair.
So that's why I just get back to that, like, man, it's like, we got to see where we're constantly pivoting to.
I think because a lot of people don't understand inflation, I think they kind of got lost in how our perspectives are as Americans. Got to remember that inflation was going to come no matter what because of COVID, because of the checks that were written, because of how much money was lost, businesses lost, people buying unnecessary amounts of toilet paper. Shit happens. But anyways,
it was created.
I think that one thing I could say about Biden, although I'm not a fan of Biden, per se, but there was things that he did that were put in that did help start bringing inflation down. The problem is that, unfortunately, whoever is in the hot seat as a president, whatever is wrong, whatever is bad, we're not going to reflect on what was the cause effect from the previous years of whatever president. So it's always a trickle down effect. I think that as far as the border goes, that's such a complex issue that I feel like neither side really, really, really wants to address. I think it's easier just to blame immigrants than to blame, corporations who do a great job at hiring these illegal immigrants and reap the benefits. It's capitalism at its best. We don't talk about the at-home moms that hire immigrants to teach their kids and clean their houses. We don't talk about the farmers who need illegal immigrants to do the farms. It's so easy to put an X on these illegal immigrants.
But that was during a time where immigration here to the States was like 3 million a year. We're getting to the point where it's like 3 million a month, and it's a whole different ball game when you say, every year I'm going to help a family.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that, but I mean, I also think like there's things that are so exaggerated in a sense too, because it's easy to say all these immigrants are coming over. A lot of them are getting stuck in asylum, right? So I would say the biggest problem that I saw with the Biden and even Donald Trump is how we handled asylums. I don't think we need to have more judges that are out there in the trenches and being able to hear these cases in real time, being like, you know what, sorry, we can't go, right? To actually house them, in our country, we're actually using our own taxpayers, resources. So I understand that component, but I do feel like at the same time, we got to give props to our border patrol, because they stop so many illegal immigrants on a regular basis. And we'll use that, like, 1 million people try to cross over, but they were stopped by the border, that's what they're supposed to do. That's their job.
Right.
But we'll make it seem like even though they attempted, they actually crossed over. No, they got sent back. I mean, we send a lot of immigrants back on a regular basis. To sit here and to spread like these crazy lies that they're over here bringing fentanyl and like, I mean, it's crazy.
Well, that's definitely true. It's just not the immigrants you think.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. That's not the only way.
But we love to group everybody the same. So like my whole thing is, and this has been a problem with immigration for golly, since hell shit. You don't even realize that, we look at the late 1800s. I mean, we had an immigration issue then, and we were making immigrants, the Irish, the Italians, the Chinese, out to be these bad people taking all American jobs. But if you really look at it, there's a point where no one here came to here legally, technically. Even when the Irish and the Italians came over here, there wasn't a true process in the late 1800s. They would just come, show up, and try to get work. Of course, down the road, we started creating borders. We started but it's always been an issue. The problem that I have with it is that we use them, right? Until we're like, we can't use you anymore. It's voting season time. What's a great enemy I can like throw stuff at, right? Like, don't get me wrong. I will say this. I'm not sitting here, I'm a logical person. I'm not sitting here and saying that there is not bad people that have crossed the border, right? It's impossible not to have bad people in general. We have bad people in America, right? Oh, yeah. But this ideal that all these criminals are coming over here is crazy insane to me, because we've all been a part, or we know people here that may not be in this country here legally, that are just working hard trying to make a better life. And those are the people that I feel like we need to focus energy on. And I feel like if Democrats and Republicans really, really, really wanted to address the issue instead of making it so complex, then do right. There's easier ways that we could do working visas. There's easier way. Like, I know a lot of people that have come here just to work and they want to go back to the country. A lot of people want to go back to the country. They have family. You know what I mean? There's ways to go about this, but unfortunately, we've politicized it so much that now we're at a place where it's just finger pointing, and instead of actually doing the real trench work. And we also we talk about the deep state. We talk about the government being corrupted. We have infiltrated a lot of these countries ourselves and have put in people and have done things to cause oppression, to cause poverty across these countries. And so
three-letter words again, or agencies.
You know what I mean? So like, I feel like so like you can't go and you can't go over there to purposely bleed a country and then expect not those people want to come into America, right? So I feel like that's the problem that I have with America, is that I love this country in the sense that this gives us the opportunity to be successful in life in ways that we wouldn't have in other countries. But at the same time, we can't always sit here and act like we're so fucking righteous. You know what I mean? Like we're like we're not the cause and effect of all this.
But that's where again, like because Trump got a lot of heat from that when he first took office, and he told some reporter, he was like, "You think we're the good guys? We haven't always done the right thing. We've done some really nasty things." And that's the first time I've ever heard a modern president agree to some of these CIA operations and toppling over regimes and putting in the leader you want. Like, again, it could be giving us scraps to with on a bigger scheme to take over something, but still, at least if my whole thing is if people are more aware of the realities of the world that we're living in, that energy of knowing that is a lot stronger than these deep state actors, because then the power does come back to the people that realize, hey, you know what? We did let the government get too big. Trump only has 3 or 4 years left. Who's going to be after him? We got to put somebody who's still grassroots like this and who wants to shrink the government down and give us our civil liberties back, and so that we can be nice to each other and we govern each other, as opposed to we're always having to write a law about how we talk to each other. Because then you get what happens in the UK, where they're literally, they've arrested people just for saying something online that was not,
You don't think that's coming?
PC.
But you don't think that's coming? Like when you have a president that's getting rid of AP press, when he's picking and choosing who's the press. Because here's the thing, the press, no matter what, is always supposed to challenge the president. That's why it's there.
But it has to challenge evenly, right? And it has to challenge
freely too.
Freely,
right?
And it hasn't been doing it. It was also found in some of these Doge findings that we were funding the AP.
Well, there was a rumor that we were funding Reuters, but that was the wrong Reuters, and you can look that up.
Not Reuters.
But I'm saying, but AP is
Politico. Sorry.
So AP is like PBS, like it is. So if you go and look at AP, they might be one of the few last straight down the middle reporting. The
And
problem
that's
is
what we need. We need things like that.
the problem with Trump though is he doesn't like any criticism whatsoever. This is his narcissism personality that he has.
Mm-hmm.
He believes everything he says and does is correct, and it's not, and you know that firsthand. So anytime anyone presses against that, he pushes back. And by all means, there's a lot of shit, and as somebody who's a creative, and it's hard sometimes where I come up with an ideal concept, and somebody's not liking it, and for me not to take it personal, right? But sometimes through that criticism creates accountability. It creates a deeper creative process. And I mean, I know it's kind of apples and oranges that I'm comparing it to, but the thing is like no president in this country should ever be above criticism, rightfully or wrongfully. We need to, like, there should be no president picking and choosing. I believe all press should be allowed in, unless, I mean, of course, unless it's like some, like, you know, rinky dink podcast. But I'm saying like we should, like, the moment that I hear presidents picking and choosing, and then I'm seeing that you're picking the press that favors you the most, that's kind of alarming.
Yeah,
that's concerning.
I agree.
Right, and then that happens with the last administration. This administration, they've let more private, more podcast news, because we're seeing a shift in the culture where people are realizing these news organizations have been lying to us, or they're giving us half truths, misinformation, and then we're realizing through TikTok, where people are on the scene, on the ground, like, no, look, this is what's happening over here, and actually doing the due diligence to say, you know what, let me find these news stories from this local town, or let me find these news stories of this interview or this book that this person wrote, and they're doing the hard work. That's why the shift went from is going from CNN, ABC, NBC to these private podcasters, because we're able to in real time start to communicate with each other like never before, when say, hey, y'all just heard this, but they left out this, and then we're able to disseminate, like, you know what? Now I don't even know anymore.
Because those things make
and
a
that's
difference.
a good thing.
You know?
I mean, that's true, but I mean, like, okay, take for instance, Joe Rogan, right?
Mhm.
Joe Rogan just recently talked about the whole Medicare thing I was telling you about, where he was like, yo, Elon's giving wrong information about this. It's not true. It's somebody else saying it. This is how
The system works.
the system works. So what he's saying is not accurate. I don't know why he's doing that. Joe Rogan was admitted, but then at the same time, Joe Rogan has him on a couple of days later, for 3 hours, and just basically not even challenging him, and just basically letting Elon just say whatever, and fandom glamorize it. So even in the sense of podcast, I have to look at, like, who is Joe Rogan's best friend, or who he's affiliated with. Dana White, UFC. Who was Dana White constantly with? Donald Trump. So how do I know that Joe Rogan is the Joe Rogan from 5 years ago, where he questioned anyone and everyone, would hold Candace Owens to truth, and then hold a Democrat to truth, and be like, let's get to the bottom line. That's another thing too that we're seeing, even with the podcast, even with social media. We have so many grifters that are leaning towards
Either side,
and jumping on conspiracy theories or things that are not accurate, because this is what people have already predetermined to be correct. It's right now, if we were to have a happy medium in this room right now, I think number one, we want better accountability from government, regardless who's in office.
Yes.
We want to see that our tax money is going to real things that truly benefit everyone, per se. We want to be more transparency than ever before. And I don't know if we're in a place, regardless if you're left or right, that we're actually going to get that until we have more than two parties. We have term limits, like you said, and we also actually get churches to pay taxes. So,
Yeah.
like those are the things. Like there's easy ways to clean this up, but at the end of the day, you can't grift and you can't have the power you have if you're being transparent and honest.
Or good.
You know what I mean? So,
unfortunately,
like,
good doesn't win in this world.
Right. So like I just feel like that's where we're at right now. I think if we had agree on all those things, I think that's like the most important things. I'm not necessarily a believer. I do believe that we do need to have federal agencies. I don't necessarily know we need a bunch of them. I don't believe that there's states that should be able to just fund things on their own, because we've seen these corruption states. Louisiana, Mississippi, super corrupted. This just needs to more be honestly needs to be real checks and balances, and doing it in a way where, and I will say this, I think the biggest issue here, we can blame the government, but at the end of the day, it falls on us as Americans. This old school guy told me a long time ago, this very, very sweet older Jewish man, he had to be in his late 80s. He let me know, he goes, you know why nothing will change in America? Because back in the 20s, 30s, when our politicians that we voted in didn't do what we asked them to do, we stopped working and we protested. We shut the government, we shut the economy down. So they had to listen. They were forced to listen. We held them accountable. Today, we are thumb warriors. If we do protest, we don't even know what we're protesting. We're just out there angry. Most of us are not willing to stop going to work if that means a better life for us in general. Most of us feel better at complaining and bitching and crying and moaning than actually doing something within your local government, your local community. Like, a lot of us don't even know what's going on in our own local state, our own city, our own town. We're better served in a place where, until it bothers me, until it affects me and my family, I don't know what to say. Sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that happening to you. We're not willing to actually hold our politicians accountable in ways that would be self-serving to the American people. So until the American people in generally get past this ideal that this person's getting more, this person's getting more, and then looking at who the real bad guys are, the ones you're talking about, we're gonna keep going around the same circle.
Well, and I think that's what this MAGA movement has the ability to create. Because whether, our laws are set up, Trump's not going to be here. He's not a dictator. He's not going to be here for 20 years.
What if he does?
Well, then I'd challenge that.
But also, like, this is part of the program too, man. The whole plot and the whole idea was to dumb down the citizens in the nation so that we don't rebel, so that we don't fight back, so that we're scared enough to be like, I can't not go to work today.
I need this government funding.
And to go back to what you said earlier, both parties are in bed together, bro. And I think that's because the United States is not a country. It's not a country on its own. It's guys. Somebody controls the world.
It's been infiltrated.
There's elites, right? For sure. Yeah, for sure it's been infiltrated because, it's like whether we stand alone or not, we have allies, we have ties that through crime, through some darkness or whatever, we have to scratch each other's back, But I think if you think about politics, who's the last good politic that you could think of? Good people don't get into politics.
I want to believe it's still Bernie Sanders, y'all. I'm Bernie Sanders, man.
You done lost his shit, though.
Bernie.
Listen, man, Bernie was already talking about term limits. It's funny that Bernie was talking about a lot of the stuff when Trump first ran for president. A lot of the same talking points that Bernie did. And honestly, Bernie was, for the choice of the people, was percentage of the people wanted Bernie. And then, of course,
but look what happened
the
to
Democrats that turned on him and the corruption, and they put our
you started taking some money too,
Hillary
right?
Clinton. They put Hillary Clinton instead, and
we saw with Biden and Kamala.
I think that's a big. I will say this on Kamala. My issue was they were clearly keeping that Biden was not healthy enough to run. The idea of even pushing him to run,
to continue as a president,
is outrageous. Is outrageous, and I think that for me was a turning point for me in general, and that was really, really hard to see and truly hard to understand that. I'm over here logically. I'm a logical person. I love facts. I love logic. I'm literally looking at this man and being like, I work in mental health. I've worked with people that are mentally they're declining. I'm clearly see.
Just on the human side.
Just on the human side, there's something not healthy with this man, and you're trying to tell me he's good, and it's just like, wow. And then the debate and just the lethargicness and how he wasn't able to respond. He wasn't quick. If you go 20 years back, Biden was quick to go from there to there. The fact that they were hiding that and manipulating that to me was definitely. And here's the thing, Kamala could have easily been a great choice. The problem is that there was no connection. You can't just throw someone in. And one thing about a lot of people who are Democrats, was that they wanted to feel like they nominated the Democrat that they wanted, and that wasn't the case in the situation. So like obviously this is where you definitely
because I would have picked 10 other people before her.
There is probably listen,
maybe even 20.
This might be controversial, and listen in this room because
ruffle some feathers, dude.
This is how I feel. This is how I feel. I am a strong believer, and I would be very extremely supportive. Although I don't listen. You don't necessarily agree with everything Trump says and does, right? You don't necessarily agree with what Donald Trump says or does, or other politicians, right?
Correct.
So I'm not saying that Bernie Sanders or the person I'm about to mention is someone that I 100% believe. Like you're not gonna agree with everyone down the line, but I like people who are authentic and people that truly can understand what it is to be someone like who is
a disruptor,
and most importantly, somebody who is working really, really hard in the middle class and trying to build your business because because they've done these same jobs. I'm an AOC fan. Like
you are?
I am an AOC fan. Yes, some of her sassiness and yes, some of her views can definitely, definitely strike a nerve in some people when we get into like democratic socialism and things of that nature. But when you find out that she's the only person in the Senate that's getting a straight wage, she's not getting more money than what she's supposed to be getting paid, that she comes from being somebody who's worked in restaurant business and stuff like that nature, and she doesn't have stocks and bonds, and she's not manipulating the system, and she's a straightforward person. Like even if it's not somebody exactly like if it's not her, we need more people like her that are from the ground up.
I totally agree with you. Not on AOC, but that we need more working class people who understand the system, and I don't think she's that, but I feel what you're saying.
She recently came out. They showed they even Trump MAGA people were they didn't believe that she only gets this base salary. That's she is
I didn't know
money.
that was surprising. That was news
and then
to me.
they checked her, and even Democrats, even Fox News were actually saying that is accurate, that is right. She is straightforward. She shows her taxes, and a lot of people that voted for Trump and this presidency actually voted for her as well. So there is a connection to the working class that she gets and understands. And I appreciate that because the only thing that I'm asking for is just straightforward fucking thinking and transparency.
She can
I don't have to listen, I don't have to
allegedly.
I don't have to agree 100%. I don't have to agree 100% with your views, but if it makes sense and is logical, and there's a lot of things she brings to the table that are logical that come from that Bernie Sanders concept, that I truly enjoy. And again, we do live in a world of extremism. We have such extreme liberals and we have such extreme conservatives. We need more middle ground, and we can find that middle ground. Those are the people I want.
So you saying that made me want to re-look at her, right?
For sure.
And I think that's okay. I think that's what Ruffled Feathers is, because it's like, I don't know much about her, but from what I've seen, she's a hypocrite. She can't control her emotions. She goes off of like emotions and anger and whatever she talks, But at this point, and I'm not throwing dirt on her. It's just that's where we're at in the world, right? Because Trump does the same shit. He'll say some immature ass shit out of his mouth, out the side of his face, whatever. But then these people are like, oh, they expect perfection from these people, and we forget that these people are human. These people have mental health. These people have issues that they don't even recognize or like even consider that they could have. But it's like, if the heart is good, if the mentality is good, because her passion is good. I see she has a lot of passion, and she's very passionate, which is a plus. It's a positive. But then when I see you talk about people holding their tongue and this and that, but then you do it, it just kind of turns me off to that, right? But again, I'm not holding her and saying, oh, she shouldn't be in politics or she shouldn't be in her position, because if she's more than capable, that's fine. She still has her human side, which is error,
Error by fault. I do think, listen, man, we still live in a misogynistic world. I'm not saying this is you or me or anybody here, but we still have an issue when women talk out loud. We still have an issue in this country when women have power. If like her coming out and being fiery, she's emotional. She's a woman. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Biden come out, or Trump or Obama coming out and being fire, we're like, oh, he's standing up for what he believes in. We still live in a world like that where people still will look at a woman's leadership and be like, it's too emotional. We always attach emotions.
I agree and disagree, because I've worked with a lot of women.
Yes, you have.
And sorry, bro, I'm gonna have to disagree.
Wait, as far as what?
as far as there's a difference between leadership through strength
Yeah.
and leadership through emotion.
Mm.
And sometimes that leadership through emotion, that first initial reaction to the emotion gets turned into action. And it's sometimes negligent action. And it's not forward thinking. It's not really getting the problem and thinking about all the outcomes of it.
Mhm.
It's more based off the emotion of, oh, that hurt. No, that's not going to happen. And then it's just complete rage, emotion, reaction. Because I have worked with strong women, they more react the way a strong man does. It's strong, firm, and loud,
Mhm.
but it's reactional and it's calculated. Because I've worked with the inverse, where it's everybody's losing, nobody goes to recess, you know, like everybody's privileges are taken away. And those are the two, you know, types of women.
No, I mean,
on those
I 100%
positions.
agree with that because I always look at, I try not to go too much down the male versus female, although sometimes it's hard because we all
Yeah.
grow up, we all go to different circumstances, we've all been raised different. We talked about that. Like,
Mhm.
so I get that component, and having a wife that is a strong, powerful woman that I appreciate her logic and how she thinks, I get that. But I'm saying us three in this room might understand that.
Mhm.
But that's not the status quo when you look at in this world, in this country, because there is still a lot of men who don't respect a woman in power because they still feel like a woman will always react out of emotion.
Mhm.
And my thing is that we don't give grace sometimes to women. Sometimes that emotion is from a logical standpoint, and we compare emotion, and we like, it's easy to misconstrue passion and emotion. This is why you got to really, really pay attention, because there's been times in Trump has been more emotional, illogical when he responds to things as opposed to logical, because he has. I'm just saying, we don't give the same grace sometimes 100% across the board. Maybe the men in this room can understand the difference,
Mhm.
but I don't think. And we've all been in conversations with guys who don't respect women's power. I know a few guys my own self that don't, who
Yeah.
told me they didn't vote because she's a woman. They don't believe that a
Yeah,
woman.
for sure.
Do you see what I'm saying? So I feel like that you know, and it doesn't even matter if it's AOC and it's a woman at this point. I'll take an alien, but I just want somebody that's going to be transparent and logical in how they approach things. And hopefully we can get to that point. But you know, I was just, even the reason why I was saying that, just for the simple fact that I think like it's easy to misconstrue passion and at the same time emotion. I think there's a lot of times AOC will get warped into the more emotional reaction than the logical. There's a lot of shit she says is actually on point.
Yeah.
But-
But what I was saying is like you gave me a purpose to what do you call it?
Evaluate.
Reevaluate it, just to see what she's about, because I think that's what the problem is today. Like most people just hate Trump, you know, and they just, because I don't know if somebody told them that, they believe it, they've got history on them, whatever. They just won't even consider listening to him or anything that he's doing. Like, so it's like, I think that's a good example, to be like, okay, I may be wrong about this person, or I may be wrong. It's like, I'm not a Democrat nor a Republican. You know what I'm saying? I don't really fully understand politics, because I guess deep down my simpleness doesn't believe that we need it, or that if we do need it, it should be right. And it should stand behind the Constitution, and like what's right is right. It should be the way that it was meant to be developed and followed, and it should sustain.
As our natural progression as people, yeah.
Right,
Absolutely.
but we don't have that, right? It's been corrupted, it's been abused,
It's the
been
corruption.
Power, taken.
And the evil.
Yeah. But then this is how we wake people up, by saying like, dude, like we don't know who we might be missing out on. And like I totally agree that we need another party rather than two.
We need
in Mexico,
3 or 4
you used to have
parties,
3.
man.
Now
You know
I
what
don't
I
even know what Mexico's government is like. I really don't even care.
Yeah.
Honestly, but
I mean, we have other parties here, but it's not, the way to get in is it's not fair.
Right.
Because we got the Green Party, we got the
libertarians.
yeah,
like,
the
but they're
Libertarian
not.
Party.
They're not. It's Democrat or Republican. It's one or the other, and you have to run with those if you even want to be promoted.
But it's only because of money, right? Because they're powerful enough or wealthy enough to promote.
But again, I have
themselves.
to say it, because this particular presidential election, we've seen something we hadn't seen so far, where you get an RFK who's been a lifelong Democrat come into this administration to help us get healthy again. Now, whether he has money ties to CRISPR technology and all this other stuff and mRNA vaccines, again, I'm always going to have the microscope on anyone.
Yeah.
You got the Tulsi Gabbards, who was a Hawaiian Democrat, and Hawaii has been Democrat for as long as they've been a state, who came over to this side to be left-centered, not to come be a full Republican. They just they know this other side of the political opposition is just completely losing the voice of the American people. And that's why this whole movement of make America healthy again, make America great again, make America whatever, everybody's using it as their own, coining it as their own phrase. It's so important because it's starting to help people wake up that the government isn't here to help you. It's been here to take advantage of us. And at some point, somebody has to be the disruptor enough to be the bull in the china shop to say, and shake all the walls. And now you start to see all the roaches come out. Whether they're right or wrong, the roaches were in there. And we have to have that point of reckoning for the regular people at some point. Otherwise, we are going to get fucked over. We are going to get invaded. We are going to get, and I don't mean by the immigrants. We could get invaded by China. We could get invaded by Iran. And then I don't mean a full-on invasion. It could just be like a bunch of cells of terrorists and
they're already here,
right? And start to really deactivate and change the fabric of what we think is a good country to be living in. And that's my fear because of our kids. I want them to live in a place that was still safe, like we were able to live in. Even though we had gang violence back then, it was still for the most part domestic.
Yeah, for sure.
When you have to throw in somebody else on top of whatever your domestic shit is, and then it's just like, man, there's just too many channels to try to cover. And
sorry.
No,
America rocks, dude. Like America could be all that. America
I like that.
It used to be that. But it's like now it's gotten to the point where it's like, man, like corruption has taken completely over, right? And it's like, yeah, they still give us the illusion of freedom, but we're not.
We're not.
And then also like the fear mongering and like this mentality of like war and things aren't what they're supposed to be. Get ready because you might need a backpack to grab and just bounce. I mean, these things are possible, right? But it's like we're so advanced that we rely on electricity, on wireless connectivity, and it's like if they shut that down, bro, it's gonna be chaos, and it's gonna be
bad quick.
Yeah, and then it's like civil war is not gonna be what it was last time. You know, now we have people who are weak-minded, who are scared, who won't know what to do. They're gonna take out. I mean, the problem will take care of itself, but we as a nation, like, how do we get that back? How do we get that? Not necessarily the power back, right? Because it's not about power, but it's about order. How do you get the order back? How do you get the
I think how we get the order back is that there has to be extreme losses. It's only for people to wake up. And the only thing I will say is good about the MAGA movement and about Trump is that eventually I believe that come down the line is just going to create. It's just going to open the eyes that we definitely need term limits and we definitely need more parties. I think that it is in a manipulation of both sides, and the corruption is loud and clear. I don't believe Trump is the answers. Hate to say this, but when you're siding with Putin and you're siding with Russia, when he clearly tried to invade another country, a sovereignty country at that, we have some issues. I don't know what the end game is. I'm gonna sit back and relax. I'm not overreacting on that because I truly believe we're like, my mindset is this: as I don't want to be reactionary. I always want to be revolutionary. In order to create revolution, not in the sense of the grand scheme, but revolution only even in your own life as a human being, as a purpose, how you raise your family, how you raise your kids. Is thinking outside the box. You have to be logical, and you actually have to like do your due diligence and understanding like systems,
the calculation,
whole 9 yards. But right now, we live in a world of reactionary because we're so extreme.
Right,
we're so extreme, left or right extreme. There's no middle ground. So that's where I'm at. I feel like if anything, we probably need everything to be truly, truly fucked up, and this is how we rise from the ashes. And if that means that America loses its overall power in the world, and that's how we build ourselves back up, that's what might needs to happen. Because at the end of the day,
which is fine.
we at the end of the day, we can blame every politician, we can blame the deep state, we blame the governments, but at the end of the day, we the people it's us that have allowed this to happen because we got so comfortable and complacent in just being consumers.
Right.
We became consumers, and
we're all guilty of it.
And we're all guilty.
I'm guilty of it.
I'm super guilty of it. So like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is why like I don't ever want to come self-righteous. I don't ever want to come be a hypocrite, because we have all turned the cheek to things that we knew that we shouldn't have turned the cheek, but we were comfortable in our lives, and as long as our circle was good, it's like, I don't know what to say about that.
That's why I'm doing this podcast. That's why we decided that of course I could have, I have other aspirations for doing the tattoo show and all that stuff. And I was supposed to be doing a tattoo on this podcast, but it was just, these important conversations are too important for me to be able to multitask creating art while having such a deep conversation on how we can help us as a people, because I can't do tattoos if we're getting bombed, I can't do tattoos if I can barely, if nobody's coming to pay for them anymore. I don't want to be reactionary to the future. I want to make the revolution now on the ground level up, because I feel like that's where it has to happen. Because I think, we're trying to do it always at the top down. Like, it's the president's going to be the answer. It's like, no, they're going to help for sure. But at the same time, that's federal. Like we said, everything has to start local. That's why I did kind of vibe with some of Kanye's ideas about having community farms, for a farm that took care of Harm Clark, and then you could house, or you could work the hobos over here, or the homeless.
For sure.
They could till, they could work the farms for you, and then having more communal like areas, so that we don't have to rely on big big agriculture, because that in itself is what's getting us sick too. And the more you get into all this stuff, some of these Kanye ideas sounded fucking outrageous, but
no, there's a lot of great things there's a lot of great things with look at Kanye, man, dissecting Kanye, man. There's a lot of good things that Kanye was saying in the beginning, especially maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. But unfortunately, we've had these great conversations about health and addiction. The health issues with him and addiction, and him medicating has actually took a lot of the genius ideals and concepts that he has away from the overall arching picture. But I do think, though, that we can. One thing I say about a lot of people who use Elon Musk and will use Kanye West is that some of the things that they say, right? Like, this is an artist and creative. You've been inspired by nobody just one day, just like, especially art now. Like, we didn't just all of a sudden just create a brand new art concept, right?
Right.
It's been trickled down. We've been inspired. We've taken like
little
pieces and this is how we keep growing art and creativity. And I will say this is my ultimate thing that I truly believe in right now. If you look at the history of life, you look at like from when the world began, we look at some of the most horrible, most horrific things that have happened, from war to tragedy to oppression to slavery. What got us to a level of peace, and what got us to the next level of growing as human beings, was being creative. Some of the greatest revolutionaries that got us through the hardest things were creative. So we have to, I really feel like we need to keep pushing creativity, because those creative minds are the ones who think of, hey, how about we create local farms within Harm Clark?
Right.
How about we get people who are dealing with addiction or just got out of prison who are trying to figure out how they can rehabilitate them? How we get them in the farms and teaching them how to farm, and maybe inspire them to be future farmers, and how we can, like, how do we get them to become chefs and teach them how to cook properly? How you know what I mean? Like, we have the ability to do that. We just got to be more in the trenches to do that, right? So, like, I feel like we're in a place right now where we can sit here and blame the government and we can blame everybody, but like, what can you do right now in your backyard that can push change? One of the things that I've always heard, and I've always I've argued the mindset of pull your bootstraps, right? It's easy to say somebody, but we need not just like as minorities, us successful minorities, we need to create more programs where we're actually going back to our communities and teaching people how. I would say this: nothing's greater than a mentorship. I had some of the greatest mentorships because there's people like me that are constantly willing to learn and want to learn. There's a lot of people out there that you may not think they want to learn, but if you just give them the right tools and the teachings, they will learn, embrace, and they will do well. It's just a lot of people, we're not doing that. Each one teach one type of concept. But I feel like if we can do that, we can create more things like you're saying with the concept. You know what I mean? Like, I can imagine how many men out there that are single fathers. There's a lot more single fathers out there than ever before that are looking for a strong man to help guide them to be future entrepreneurs and businessmen that would love to mentor with you.
Right.
Because I know where you come from, and I know how hard your
'Cause
family
I've-
got to where, you know.
I've tried some of the mentorship stuff with the underprivileged kids. It's just not for me. Just because you have to have a different approach with
sure.
young
For
young
sure.
men,
This young
angry
for
men.
sure. Yeah.
Especially today.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm the same cloth where like if all I'm doing is bitching about it, I'm part of the problem. Like, at what point are you gonna get to the front lines and start to do something about it? And this is where it starts. And I do have ambitions of just being more of a teacher because I've always loved teaching.
You're a great teacher.
Thank you. You too, man.
You're a great
That's
teacher,
why
man.
we both always came back around because
You're a great teacher. I think that's the game plan, and you got to find your niche.
mm-hmm.
Like maybe working with young people ain't your niche. Maybe working with older,
Right.
Because right now there's a lot of one thing I don't believe this country does well, and it doesn't matter what party where you align yourself politically. We don't know how to rehabilitate people properly.
Mm-hmm.
We're quick to just once you make a mistake, you're cast out, you're good. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of repeat offenders out there, but we also know there's a lot of people, especially the men that come out of prison, that are looking to rehabilitate themselves. People who are caught up in addiction are trying to rehabilitate themselves. There's a lot of people out there, especially older people, that are really trying to get their lives together. They don't know where to start.
Right.
I just challenge everyone on a daily basis, like I challenge myself. What can I do today, even if it's something super, super small, that can help somebody else or inspire someone else to do better in their lives? And I think podcast is great because I think now more than ever before, we are getting our knowledge or our concepts or our inspiration from podcasts. Maybe something I said today might inspire some people, something you say today inspire. Maybe I'm hated and get comments that everyone just fucking hates me, especially when I mention AOC. Whole point being is that at the end of the day, like we are only as good at what we put in this world. You know what I mean? So if you're putting positive things, you're trying to make things happen, you're trying to educate people. I think that at the end of the day, we use our creative powers. I think we can really, really can't save everybody, but if you can save two people.
Well, I think you made a good point is that when you find your own lane, it's obviously something that you are already passionate in. And it's those people realizing if you do want to change the world, if you don't like how the world is finding people within that, maybe that addiction circle that is that type of person that is going to stay within these people that need that help and, create some program, because I couldn't go do it because I can't relate to it, but I could do it something on art related, business related. And if we all at the ground can say like, you know what, this is what I'm good at. I've proven that, let me start to reach out to one person, to two people. And then that kind of should, in theory,
well, it will
flow out.
I've seen it happen. I mean, you're an expert too at what you do. And I was going to say to you, the one thing that how we came together was we had this great conversation at lunch. Not even know that we know the same person, which is Chris My Balls. But the
Chris
point,
My Balls.
The point being is that we had this great conversation, and the most impressive thing that I had conversation with you was your willingness to be transparent about the things you've gone through in your life, and recovery, and you doing life is so essential because I think that honestly we are walking words of wisdom if we apply it correctly. Like your struggles, my struggles, your struggles, they are truly in my vision and how I see life is like they happen for us for a reason to help other people that are going to be going through something worse or similar to help them get through what they're going to
relate.
You know what I mean? To relate.
Yeah.
So like you're so gifted at what you do. Even the conversation we had, which was like an hour, I was so impressed by you because like transparency is super, and vulnerability is super, super important. And like you can relate to so many men.
And that's why I think what you said about we don't know how to rehabilitate people, man. I think the first thing and the key to that is accountability, man. Because you said it about a precedent. Like if everybody can accept their poverties and their mistakes and their errors, like we have to embrace the bad with the good. That's the world that we occupy. It's a balance thing. So we're not perfect. We're never going to be perfect. So forget about that, right? So as an addict, I have to know that part is just as beautiful as the other parts of me, because it's like now acknowledgement, recognizing that the monster is there, and how do I fight it every day? Because it is a fight every day, right? So accountability helps with that, because like, okay, I have my girl at home, she has a kid, I got a podcast with my partner, with my boy, I have to show up. Like, these things have to keep me accountable, because it's like, what's more important? But also, like, some people can sweep it under the rug and be like, nah, this is just time will take care of it. It's not. You have to be front and center with it. Keep it up front. Stand beside yourself, whatever you need to do to be honest with yourself. And then that's how you can move forward, because that's how you could become a functional man, a man that can provide to society, or even like a good listener, you know?
For sure.
Because if not, you destroy yourself, and you destroy people around you, or you become completely unhappy, and then you start acting like an asshole to people, and then that energy is the opposite of what we're trying to induce into people of like, nah, just help a little bit. Help a little bit, and then listen more.
Listen more, and be self-aware of your own ego.
Yes.
And I say this, and I can share this story of pride, because I'm clearly older. Probably don't believe it, but I'm clearly older than Bird. Okay. All right. And when we met, how we met, working together, him coming on as a manager where we used to work, and even him being underneath me, I wanted to do the whole, like, I'm teaching you, mentoring you. The one thing I quickly learned about Bird is, not only is Bird ambitious, but Bird is somebody who's truly a believer in accountability, and most importantly, you're a true believer in ethics, and you don't believe in cutting corners. And there were times where, when we worked together as a manager, I actually learned from you, and the importance of, no matter what, never cutting corners. And I think that's the hard part that we have to realize in this life, especially as men collectively, is that it's okay to not know. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay not to have the answers. It's okay to be taught, even if you're in a position where you're supposed to be the one teaching. Because at the end of the day, you can't be a great teacher if you're not a great student first.
Right.
And when he told me that you were connected, I was like, oh man, yeah, I already know Bird. Like, Bird runs a tight ship. All right, tight ship. There's been time I'm like, a little too tight, Bird. Like, loosen up a little bit. But
I was also 19 years old.
And I would say, when he was young, like, he was 19, but I would say, like, he was, like, there was no, like, we had some, we wouldn't say arguments, we just had some heated discussions. Like, no, this is how it needs to be ran. But the one thing that I always appreciated about Bird is that he stood on his ethics, and this is how we have to continuously be as men. And accountability. A lot of us didn't have fathers that taught us accountability. A lot of us didn't have family dynamics that taught us the word accountability, what that means. So it's something that a lot of us have had to learn. This is why it's so important that if you have a conversation with someone, that you're aware, whether it's you in the moment of learning from somebody that's teaching you something, or you're in a position where you can help guide someone or give some great mentorship. We have to be able to take off our cool, take off our ego, and be willing to listen. And it's also being able to accept that you might be wrong.
Yeah.
And it's okay if you're wrong. That's how you learn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because I had to.
You have to be wrong, dude.
I had to chew that pill many times as 19-year-old me, who was ambitious, who wanted to just, scale the job and do the best as I could. Because you taught me the same, man. You taught me more the humanity side of things. And that is that everyone is different. Everyone does have a different background. The approach to things can be one way for one person and well more received a different way for another person. And once I was able to, make that switch, I was able to manage and do so much better with any scenario, with any body or any mental type that came in, because those early teachings of like, damn, like that didn't go the way I wanted it to. Like that situation, in my mind was just black and white.
Yeah.
But really there were some gray areas I should have been more keen to or attuned to. And even those young years, man, of working retail, man, they've taught me so much up into this time. And if y'all didn't know, we used to work retail together. This
man.
was at Oakley.
Oakley.
Well,
Start
AX.
for Amani. I was Bird's manager, Amani. Then Oakley approached me, come through, and I'd grown so fond of Bird and his ambitiousness and his willingness. I was like, yo, you want to hire me, you got to hire Bird. And so they would hire Bird, and I'm just seeing Bird excel, not just from a manager perspective in retail, but just as a businessman, as a man, a husband, a father. It's been, although we haven't been in, life separates you, but then life finds a way to bring you back together.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I love the most is just seeing like the progress you made come, you know what I mean? Is super, super happy because there's certain people that come in your lives where even if you don't stay in touch with, there's always going to be this deeper connection. And you're always going to have that where no matter where you pick up that conversation, no matter how many years, it's like it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love about Bird because it's always been that way. We've always had a deeper connection. He knows he's firsthand seen struggles that I've gone through as a man, with my own family and things like that. It's been, we've had some great conversations and some great experiences together. So it's cool to come
No doubt, man.
full circle, and be able to connect with you and seeing what you're doing right now with the shop and what you're doing with the podcast is like pretty impressive. So congratulations on it.
I appreciate you making it, man. I know Pablo, when he met you, he's like, no, he's good people, man. I was like, yeah, that's Chris my balls. That's Chris my balls.
Yeah, it was crazy, dude, because I was mentioning the podcast. I was like, yeah, I got a podcast with my boy. We do tattoos. And he was like I saw him in his mind go thinking. He's like, what's his name? I was like, he goes by Bird. He's like, yeah, I knew it. So
because I remember seeing something it had to be like a year ago.
Yeah,
so
Mr. Rogers style.
Yeah, and then he was tattooing. I was like, oh, that's a cool concept. And then I just man, let me tell you something in life, man. And if you're watching this, don't get so lost in the grind and the ambitiousness that you forget about some of the deeper connections that got you to where you're at today. Because it's easy, right? Especially now than ever before. Like, we're getting older, our families are getting older. My parents are your parents are getting older. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. So even if you don't have the bandwidth to talk to somebody every day, it's very, very important that you at least take the time, even if it's 3 minutes the most, to just text somebody, hey, how are you doing? Or most importantly, hey, I see what you're doing awesome, you're doing amazing. Hopefully we can soon connect. But it's super, super important that we don't lose the connections that are the fabric of who we are today and who we will be tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get lost in the grind. I've been lost in the grind for a while now, that now it's funny because a lot of people that were part of that pathway that led me, they're coming back into my life for whatever reasons. Like just the way the higher power works. So like super, super important. You take anything from this other than vote for AOC. I truly, truly hope that you take from this that like literally like the connections to good people are so important. So if you have them, even if you haven't talked to that person in 5 years, 6 years, 3 months, 2 days, don't lose that connection because we all need each other. We all can continue to inspire and help each other. And most important, learn from each other. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you burned a bridge, but you still felt like that was a maturity thing, reach out, man. Swallow your pride and make that relationship like worthwhile because, man, I knew from a young age time was ticking, and that's why I had that whole change in my lifestyle of the ethics thing of like, man, right is right, wrong is wrong, evil is out there, good is in us. Like, try to be that perfect soldier. Try to be that person who's going to fight for someone weaker than you. Try to be the leader and try to just be the best you can be every day. You're going to fail all the time, but as long as you wake up the next day and try and to beat yesterday, you're going to be all right. And, I think that's where we're trying to move these conversations to. We found out today, like, great points. We both think differently on how things should be, but we have more centered ideas on where we should lead. And if we realize we're being pulled apart to think on party terms, we can cut through the bullshit and figure out, now, man, we actually do all vibe together. We are all on the same wavelength, and we need to kind of hop on that train a little bit and bring more people along, and because this is a fun ride, this ride of life, man, but it's fucking sketchy.
And it's fun. It's a lot more fun with good people around you. Like
For sure, man.
especially like people are valuable, man, and it's like energies do. Like I mean, people go off of energies, and that energy is healing, and that's okay, man. And we talked about this last time too, having conversations with your boys, like real open-hearted, transparent conversations where you're like, man, today I'm not doing too good, or like this week was tough, man, but you know what, I do have more to be grateful for and to keep me going than to allow this to happen. Because like I said, this world is about balance. You got to have the good days, you got to have the bad days, but you got to be able to keep that balance and maneuver in between with ease, and I mean, I'm a faithful man, I believe in God, so that helps me a lot. But you got to have something to believe in, whether it's your higher self, your group around you, your goals, your business, your art. Use that.
Absolutely. And something that I've taught my son, he just turned 23 as well, Josh. I know, man. One of the things I've taught him always, like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in trouble. If you're not surrounded by some of the most gifted, most talented people, then how do you have the ability to grow and learn?
Yep.
And I think that's super essential. And you're right, burning bridges, man. Shit, we've all been either a victim or a person who created or just you burned a bridge.
Did that match? Yeah.
Yeah, we're not perfect by a long shot, and who you are today is not who you're going to be tomorrow. Grace, gratitude, forgiveness, understanding, empathy, those are truly essentials in your life, almost essential as that backpack for the apocalypse. But yeah, like you gotta have those things in order to truly like develop to be the man you're supposed to be.
I appreciate you coming through today, Chris. I think
Appreciate
this naturally wrapped itself up.
Yeah, man.
It did, man.
It was good combos.
It was a good episode.